Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. What's leverage, you ask? It's a strategic advantage. It's the power to act effectively. It means they need you more than you need them. It's not just about your talent. It's about business. It's about real business. It's not about potential. It's about a reputation. And that's what leverage is. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. And the man that thought that up, the myth, the legend, my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And he also helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then he actually connects you with the pros so you can get your opportunity there. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They help you find your sound and they help you grow your audience so you can become the artist that everybody loves and so you can get paid. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists such as Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S. There is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Man, I'm good. It's good to see your face.
Good to see yours too, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about some cool stuff today. We're going to kind of talk about how to lay down railroad track, how to grind it out, and get to an outcome and get to a next level with the project.
Exactly. Right? How to get the opportunity for the big deal, how to make, how to get aware, how to get into the awareness of people that you want to partner with.
And what's cool with it, instead of talking about other people, we're going to talk about us.
We're going to talk about us.
Too, but we're going to talk about us.
Exactly. We're going to draw some lessons out from a cool deal that we just recently had happen. And we're going to show how it's relevant to you and the lessons you can draw from it in your career to create leverage in your music business.
That's right.
Yeah. So what deal are we talking about here?
Talking about the Disc Makers deal.
Disc Makers. That's right.
The C.L.I.M.B Show podcast is partnered with Disc Makers.
Proud.
We are proud. We are proud to partner with Disc Makers. They've been supporting indie musicians before indie music was ever even a thing. Mm-hmm. And I've been using them for over a decade now to do duplications on my CDs. Man, their art thing is their dashboard to create the art stuff's killer, man. It's great. And when you're ready to make CDs, DVDs, vinyl, which we're getting ready to do with like the Lonely Highway Boys, or distribute your music and videos with customized USBs, man, call Disc Makers. That's DISC makers.com. And it's the only place you need to go, discmakers.com.
Hey, and while you're there, click on the Guides and Resources tab and download some of their excellent free guides. They've just revised and expanded their home studio handbook, which has a ton of great advice and information for newbies and studio veterans. You can find them online at discmakers.com, DISC makers.com, or give them a call at 800-468-9353. That's 800-468-9353.
Boom. There you go. So, hey, before we get into the meat and potatoes of how this whole thing happened, because we want to kind of share it with you again, it's relevant and personal to you. Let's take care of a little bit of business. Join the C.L.I.M.B community real quick on Facebook if you haven't done it yet. Find it on Facebook. Ask to be let in. We'll let you in and just be good boys and girls, or we'll roadhouse you. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure all the full episodes on Tuesday and the mini-sodes on Friday, those value bombs just come right into your phone, and you can scroll through them and consume them whenever you want. And they're all there, and they're organized, and they're in time and chronological order and all that. Share it. That's the best possible thing you could do to help us out, to thank us for this, is just tell somebody else about it, man. Let them know that if it's helping you, it may help them. And finally, take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and a review so that other people who are thinking about spending a little bit of time in here, dipping their toe in the water, will know that it's legit, right?
Mm-hmm. And speaking of reviews, we have a tasty 5-star review from Reed Moto. And this is Super Songwriting Podcast from Legends of Song. Sounds like a Branson show almost.
It does.
Yeah, Reed it. Let me just aside. Reed is a really nice guy. He's part of the Freddie community. He's and I actually just got to meet him on in person for the first time at the Martha's Vineyard Songwriting Festival. So he came out there, and it was a cool hang. So got to meet Reed. So anyway, he left this before, so I didn't like slip him some hundreds or anything like that. This is before
this is already
we met in person. So anyway, it says, I love this podcast, and Brent Baxter and Johnny Dwinell are legends in the songwriting game. There's so much value in terms of tips, advice, and they just tell it like it is. I think a person could shave months or even years off their learning curve in songwriting, which includes so many skill sets, knowledge, and experience to even become somewhat proficient. I highly recommend tuning in, and thank you, Brent and Johnny. Thank you, Reed. It was good to hang with you this past weekend, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Reed. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into it, man. We want to talk about kind of, first of all, this is a really big deal for us. I mean, this is a big deal for us, and it's a whole lot of everything. It's a bigger audience for us, just like that. I mean, we had, before we pulled the trigger on this deal with disc makers, we had like 3 record-breaking Tuesdays like in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then disc makers pushed one button and blew those records right out of the water.
Yes.
So I mean, now we're able to help more people. We're able to reach a wider audience. We're able to get our brand out there and add legitimacy to our brand by co-branding with an awesome organization that's been around forever, like Disc Makers, right? And so
if you are one of those new listeners that came to find the climb because of disc makers, extra special welcome to you today.
That's right. That's right. Good point. Good point. And so we put together some bullet points because you know what? The way that we got here was a lot of what we preach on this podcast, right? And so Brent, take us through the bullet points. Like, what's the first bullet point on the things that we needed to do to bring leverage to this relationship and be of value and of service to disc makers? Yes,
this basically is a story of the Climb's climb. How we created leverage in the music business and led to this partnership that we're super excited about. And it's a lot of the same principles are going to apply to you and your climb on your music business climb. All right. So how you are going to create leverage in the music business. So learn from, we're not just up here talking. We're actually, taking our own medicine, applying these lessons, using them, and good things are happening. Okay. That's right. So we said, hey, how did we get here? Well, we got here the same way we tell artists to get where they want to go. Let's share that. Right. So we hope this is inspiring and informative and helpful on your journey. So we're not just doing a victory lap. This is just real world advice of how you can apply this to your business, and it's going to help you. All right. So it's not about us. It's about you. So first thing is we were consistent, and we have been consistent, meaning every week.
Yep.
We haven't missed a week, have we? In over 2 years now, I guess.
2.5 years.
Yeah. This is episode, 138, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot. That's over 2 years of every Tuesday an episode dropping every Tuesday.
Yep. And then for the last, I don't know how many months now, we've been doing mini-sodes too.
Right. So we've been dropping 2 episodes.
Twice a week. Mm-hmm. And, we do it because we love it. We do it because it's beneficial to us. It helps us get connected with new people, with new business, with people that we can help in our businesses as well as through this podcast.
That's right. But people know they can find us. They know every Tuesday a new episode is dropping, and thankfully we're at a spot where people are looking forward to it, and we appreciate it, and we respect that. And this is stuff we talk about, like if you're doing a YouTube channel. Yeah. That consistency. That's one of those same things we talk to you about. If you're doing your cover Tuesday or whatever it is, New Music Monday, whatever your schedule is and your YouTube show, we treat it like this is broadcast, right?
Exactly.
Like whatever show company, your primetime lineup on Thursday night, they don't just skip it. And
we are a media company. We're looking at ourselves as a small little media company.
We are. And
we
have a production schedule. People know, look for it first thing on Tuesday.
That's right.
And so that's the biggest thing. We're consistent, and that shows a professionalism. It shows that we're in it.
And not for nothing, it racks up the numbers, doesn't it? The downloads. It does.
Exactly.
More and more people get turned on to it. There's more content out there. Mm-hmm. And then when a new person gets turned on to episode, when we dropped episode 10, when a new person gets turned on to it, they can go back and binge listen 10 episodes. When a new person gets turned to episode 100, they go back and binge listen to 100 episodes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
it's a positive snowball effect.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, this is the deal, right? So what about that in terms of streams? What about that in terms of your catalog that's bankable when you make that one hit? And then all of a sudden, all these songs, if you're consistent in writing, now have potential value that people, because you got on the radar screen, are going to want to look at.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with your YouTube channel. You finally get that one that hits, and oh my goodness, I have 2 years of all this other stuff I can go and watch, and you may be covered, but now there's some originals in there, and they just, now that something caught their eye, now they have a lot of material and they can fall in love with you.
Brick by brick. It's real. That's how YouTube worked. We talked about Noah Guthrie's story, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew how this worked, and it was a pleasure for me to be able to sit down because I had an at-bat with an artist that Noah Guthrie's old manager now manages. Mm-hmm. And I found out, like, in that meeting, I'm like, he's like, I used to manage Noah. I'm like, because that was part of my pitch, right? I'm explaining like what we're doing and how I'm out. He's like, I used to manage Noah. I'm like, is that like, am I missing any pieces on this story? Because I'm like,
I'm pretty
sure I read this right. Yeah. And he's like, no, it's spot on. He goes, it's spot on. That's what he did. But 77 weeks in a row of putting out a consistent cover song, and then every week a few more people subscribed, which means a few more people got an email saying that the new video was out next week, and a few more people became aware of them. And so that's how he built the traffic, right? Because then when he would drop, towards the last half of those 77 weeks, he would drop a video, and a whole bunch more people would immediately see it and consume it within a certain amount of time of it dropping. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's how you start to ring the bell and get on the radar screen of the YouTube algorithm, because they're looking for stuff that could potentially go viral and blow up. And on the 77th one, which was his version of LMFAO's Sexy and I Know It, like that one took off. And it had all the right kind of things together. He was singing I'm Sexy and I Know It. And he's like this goofy, geeky, sort of pudgy kid that the juxtaposition of the way his voice sounds and his level of musicianship doesn't fit his face, man. Like it doesn't. Like you'd look at this kid and you think he's going to be a geek, and then he sings and you're like, oh, you're a god. You're a god among men.
Very compelling. Yeah,
it's compelling. And then he's singing that song that happened to be really popular then, that wasn't out 77 weeks ago when he started. Right. He just kept doing the work, do the work. And then boom, he gets 24 million views. He gets a $100,000 Indiegogo campaign funded, and he gets an invite to go be on NBC's Glee for a year. And now he's doing 750 seaters every weekend, hard ticket sales as who? Noah Guthrie.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's consistent.
Consistency.
Right. Not only has the climb been consistent, it's also been discoverable. Note, these podcasts don't just live on our laptops.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how many places are we discoverable? iTunes, Stitcher, we're on Spotify.
Yep.
What, iHeartRadio?
iHeartRadio.
Yeah. We promote it through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all kinds of email lists.
And I'll spend probably a good hour to hour and a half, if I'm not interrupted, every week, coming up with a graphic, putting it together, and then disseminating the posts, right? Like, as we're on, 51 different songwriter groups that graciously allow us to post, right? And
we're not spamming, we're jamming. This is stuff that's helpful.
Right. It's relevant and personal to them. And that's the way we approached it. I mean, I go to the administrators of those groups. Hey, check this link out. This is what we're doing. We've got a bunch of downloads. We think this could be valuable to your community. If you think so too, let us post. If not, hey, we'll stay out of your way. And you know what? Some of them said, man, I don't want you posting on you. Yeah. Like, okay. Say, hey, no worries. Thanks.
You like to keep your artists and writers ignorant. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I did not say that.
It's your house.
I thought that, but I didn't say it.
Right.
But discoverable. You got to get out there.
Yeah. I mean, it would do zero good if we recorded this podcast. It doesn't matter how good it is. No one can hear it. Yeah. We would not have the opportunity to partner with disc makers because they'd be like, who? We're like, oh, it's great. We've been there for 2 years every week. It's on my hard drive.
Yeah.
We're going to find it. We can come over to the house and I'll press the little button with an arrow that points to the right. Exactly. Play, and you can listen to it there. Can I go online? No. Exactly. You can come over to the house. You can go over to Johnny's office. We're discoverable. And we do that intentionally. And we don't just put it up on iTunes and hope people find it. We work to make sure that people can, again, iTunes is just distribution. Spotify is just distribution. It's not marketing. So we market the podcast.
That's right. And every single week I spend time. It takes my time. I got to think about it. I got to think about a graphic. I got to put it together. I create custom links on Bitly, because custom links get better click-through rates than, 1,000 digits of
hashtag or whatever / gibberish. Yes.
Yeah, like the gibberish they don't. All
right.
So it but I'm in a groove now. You know what? It takes me a lot less time to do it now than it used to a year ago. Because I'm down to it's almost like it's first. What do they call it? First.
Yeah. I don't know. We talked about it the other day, but yes, muscle memory kind of thing. It's just
the darn thing. Yeah, it's like tying my shoes, but it still takes up that time. And sometimes I get interrupted. Sometimes I got a meeting, a phone call, and then this turns into that, and that turns into this, and next thing I know, it's like 4:00, and I'm like, crap, I still haven't finished my job. I got to finish my job, and then
the job's not done when we record it. It's done when it's
when we get it out to everybody
on the planet that would be helped by it knows about it.
There you go.
So we're consistent. And the podcast has been, we've done our best to make it discoverable. What else? We built relationships. Or actually, I'll be honest. Johnny built relationships because Johnny leaves his house.
You got a lot of kids, man.
You got a lot of kids, man. You try to get out. One's going to grab you. One's going to trip you. One's going to, something's going to happen. And you ain't going to
it's true. And let's talk about this. So it started as...
over a year ago.
Well, it started even longer than that. It started 4 years ago with submitting a podcast to Andre and saying, hey, man, I think maybe I got some stuff here that could add value to your community in the form of a blog.
Yeah. So even before the podcast.
Yeah. Long before the podcast. And then Andre was like, hey, man, I like these. Like, send me some more stuff. So I sent him some more. He's like, these are cool. And it started out like, here's what we want to do. Quid pro quo. Again, this is a business. He's like, I'm going to post your stuff up here and you're going to get a lot of exposure from it. We'd like you to disseminate to your list an email about our new work download. They've got all kinds of guides for mixing and songwriting and music business stuff. Like recording, it's killer. It's an amazing resource. Would you do that? Absolutely. And so
because it's personal and relevant to your audience too.
Exactly. Right. So
like, hey, I can get content. Get good content.
Yeah. So it started out 3 a year, and then it was just, and then he would, and then I would just kind of like every 6 months or so, I'd be like, wow, so consistent blogging, which I haven't done since January, but I had like 4 years in a row, of consistent blogging. But I'm blogging like crazy. And then I would just send him links to the stuff I thought he would really like, that his audience would like, that would be a good fit. Yeah. And then he would inevitably get back to me a week later, like, hey man, I like these. I'm going to do this one, this one, this one. I'm like, all right, cool. And then the next year they might've done 4 or 5. And now I think they've probably done like almost maybe 20 of my blog posts. But then that relationship, because of your relationship with me, I'm like, hey, Brent writes blogs. I introduced you to Andre via email.
You did. Thank you.
And said, hey, you guys should check this out because he's got some good stuff for the songwriting piece of that. And then they started posting some of your stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I did a series exclusively for them, and I could see my numbers going up too when they posted it. Yeah. And still, if they grab one of those and send it out in one of their emails, I'm like, where did all these new subscribers come from?
Yeah.
Then I'll open the disc maker's email that I get. I'm like, oh, there I am.
Yeah, and that's where it is. Yeah, and so but there's no expectations here other than, hey, I think I can add value to what you're doing, and Andre's like, I think you can too, and I think I can add value to what you're doing. I'm going to give you some more exposure. And awesome. So
you started building that trust.
For years. Yeah, that was for years.
Mm-hmm. And he's reading your stuff. He's getting to know your brand and the gospel that you preach.
Yep.
So he's building that trust.
That's right. And this is like via email, right? And then I think, I don't know, years into our relationship, I ended up having my first conversation with Andre.
Mm-hmm.
He's a hairband guy. Had his own band, killer musician. I'm like, no way, we're sharing pictures of our bands and stuff. I'm like, dude, the mothership, like I still haven't met him face to face yet, but I'm like, man, like, like this is awesome. So that parlays into, I called them when we had our podcast going because we wanted to interview Kevin Bruner. And if you're not aware, CD Baby is owned by disc makers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Bruner is the vice president of marketing for CD Baby. They're a massive digital distributor and really incredibly cool organization. And Kevin was gracious, said, I'll come on your podcast. And we interviewed him. And they had just started the DIY conference for CD Baby. Mm-hmm. And they had 2 years. The first 2 years they did it were in Chicago. The last 2 years, they just had one here in August in Nashville. Yeah. So, and I said, hey man, I would love to, I heard you guys are coming to Nashville. Like I'd love to be a part of that, and I'm using the leverage of, hey, I'm going to put you out on our podcast, like hook me up, like help me out. And he's like, absolutely, dude. I'd love that. Like, and I made a play to be a panelist, and there's the high level of CD Baby and their expectations. They don't let anybody speak. They don't care what your reputation is. Like, can you speak? And you know what? I didn't have like videos of me doing presentations. Yeah. So I didn't get the panelist thing. Yeah. But he's like, hey man, I'm gonna make you a mentor, And so it's like these row of tables, and throughout the day, like people book time with you, and you get like 15 minutes with them, like, and they can ask you whatever they want to ask you, and you can disseminate information. Hey, this is what I would do, and they're like, oh, thank you. It's cool. Yeah. Why don't we give you some one-on-ones with some potential clients? Yeah. Right. Oh, don't twist my arm. And I got a free pass to the darn thing, which was, I could see Tom Jackson do his thing in front of, 1,000 people. And you're like, that's awesome. But here's the thing. So this is last year, a year ago, August, and YouTube threw the big opener party, the VIP party, which they have every year. Right. So I also got invited to the VIP party, which was all, I'm like, cool. And so, Rick Barker's there, and Tom Jackson's there, and Ari Hertzfeld's there, and everybody's there. So I'm hanging out at the party, and I got there like I wasn't fashionably as late as I probably should have been or whatever. So I'm there hanging out, and I don't really know anybody, and I'm kind of like, uh-oh. So all of a sudden I'm taking care of some business on my phone. And at this point, I should say that my relationship with disc makers had expanded to Lucy in marketing department, and had reached out a few months prior and asked me to do like a live Twitter thing with them, where I would answer questions live on Twitter via them. And it was really cool, man. Like very like in the moment, live, game time kind of a thing, and answering questions. So I had some conversations with her, and gotten to make a relationship with her, which is in a different department really than Andre, right? So she just like, hey, Johnny. And I look up, and it's like, I'm like, hi, I don't know what Lucy looks like. She's like, Lucy from Disc Makers. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Yeah. And I'm like, how did you know it was me? And she's like, duh, the hair. I was like, oh yeah, of course you did. Yeah. What's going on? So it's like her, Michelle, and Josh, their copywriter. They were all hanging out together, and the three of them were out to man the the Disc Makers booth at the CD Baby DIY conference. So we're just hanging out, having some drinks, and she's like, we're so excited to be here. We've never been in Nashville. And I'm like, shut the front door. You haven't? Like, no, I'm like, we're hanging out. Let's go hang out. And you know what? Like, that was honestly just, like, she was just, they're all three of them were just killer hang, right? And I just was having so much fun. I'm like, we got to hang out. I'm going to take you out on Broadway. We're going to do this whole thing. So we ended up going out to dinner, like, just about every night, I think, that they were in town, you know? And one time we're sitting down and we started talking, and I'm like, CD Baby has a podcast. How come you guys don't? It's like, we've been talking about that, and we've been really thinking about, we just trying to figure out how to put it together. And I mean, they're a massive company. There's everybody, there's more work than everybody can do. I promise you. They're so busy. They're busy, busy. And I'm like, hey, this is our podcast, The C.L.I.M.B. Like, y'all know our content, you know what kind of tone we have and everything. I said, check it out. Why reinvent the wheel? Maybe we can help you there. Mm-hmm. She's like, that's interesting. Send me that, So that's where it started like a year ago.
Yeah.
And then it's just been kind of back and forth. And hey, what about this? And what about that? And then it escalated up to Dan Baker. Mm-hmm. Andre was loving it. Like, okay, this could work. This could be cool. And then Dan gets in, and then he's like, man, I love this. This is great. And then we have to work out the particulars on the arrangement and how we can each add value to that situation. And here we are,
Yeah. And that's actually the fourth point is we brought value. We weren't assholes.
Yeah.
We didn't just ask them for a favor. We said, hey, you're interested in the podcast? Well, look, we have one that's already growing every month, every week. Yeah. Hey. We got this thing going, and you can check it out. And so we brought value to that. Now, they're definitely bringing value to us because they have a much bigger reach than we have at this point. A lot of earballs, right? Yeah. They can get on the show, and that's what we want to do. We want to help as many people as possible. So that pours fire on that to let us reach a lot more of you guys, which we want to do, right? So that's one of the values Disc Makers is bringing to the C.L.I.M.B. And for us, they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
they got a podcast. They already know the flavor. They've been working with Johnny for a while. They've seen how they've heard your gospel, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting to know mine. I did a series of blog posts for them. Now they get to hang out with you on a personal level. It wasn't, hey, come hang out. Let's get to know Nashville. I'll show you around. Yeah, making a relationship, and so there's value there for both parties. It's a win-win. That's why we're both saying thank you.
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing when that happens.
So cool. So fun.
And you talk about the follow-up. That's the other thing. We're professional. Are you being professional in your follow-up? Are you getting back to whoever it is in your scope of your business, booking agents, live show, talent people, publishers, producers, co-writers? We had follow-up. We didn't just say, hey, we had a great time. We talked about it. Now I hope they call me.
Yeah.
You brought it back up. If there would be a task like, hey, what about this kind of verbiage? What kind of this kind of lingo? We get back to them.
Yeah.
And put thought into it and not just, off the top of our heads, misspelling everything, right? It's part of that being professional. So they build that trust with us going, okay, well, they're putting their name literally, on our graphics and stuff. They want to make sure we're going to represent disc makers in a good, positive way.
Yeah. That's right. And there's so many opportunities now that are going to sprout from this, right? Like they have, a massive list, excuse me. And we're going to be able to touch that and help those songwriters out, help those songwriters do song demos. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
And what an incredible resource. Dan's agreed to come on and be interviewed and talk about diversifying and what, if anybody can see around the corner, it's them, right? And tell you the reality of what's happening with CDs and what's happening with digital downloads. They've got a hand in every one of those pies, and they know exactly what's going on. And I got the opportunity to hang with Dan, and he's got a killer story. He started working there as an employee and rose to director of marketing, by being smart and good and consistent and
all the things we're telling you to be professional.
Exactly. It's awesome. So we're really, really blessed to have that. And this is how a career happens, right? This is how your music career happens. This isn't a one-hit wonder where you're nobody and then you're somebody. That's the way it's served up in your consciousness when you become aware of somebody that you love as an artist. And because they seemingly come out of nowhere and all their ducks are in a row, right? Yeah. They look the part. They've got a team. They're on the radio. They're on MTV. They're on CMT. They're on BET. They're on tour. They got all this stuff going on, and they're everywhere for you. But that didn't happen overnight, man. That takes time.
Just think about how this podcast came into your awareness. When did you first find out? What episode, was your first episode of the C.L.I.M.B? Was it, even if it were episode 1,
right?
Which we've seen the numbers. Not a whole lot of you found us on episode 1, but those of you that did, it was probably because you came through Johnny's blog, which he'd been doing consistently for years, or you came through my blog, which I've been doing consistently for years. There was there was that already that snowball effect, that build. So even if you came in on episode 1, you came to it through our previous consistency and discoverability and that sort of thing. And now we're 138 episodes or so in.
Yeah.
And I really, want to draw the connection here. Again, this is not just a victory lap for us. We're happy about it, but there's lessons for you. Are you out there building relationships? What value do you bring to a record label, to a publisher? Are you out there doing stuff on your own? We were already out there growing. We weren't stagnating. We're already on an upward trajectory, growing every month.
We weren't waiting to be discovered.
We weren't waiting for permission. We weren't waiting for someone to come make our dreams come true. We're doing our thing and growing it and doing it and having fun doing it and helping people and doing doing the deal. Like if you want to be an artist, go be an artist. You don't have to wait till you get signed.
That's right.
You want to be a songwriter, go write songs. You don't have to wait to get signed. You want to have a big podcast? Great. Let's start doing it. And we're climbing that mountain already. And then that gave him something to jump onto and added that value. If Johnny had just said, hey, Lucy, how come just make sure she doesn't have a podcast? She's like, I don't know. I don't really know. He goes, hey, well, I've been thinking about doing one too. She'd be like, all right, well, let's know how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of
I was able to talk about how many downloads we had. I was able to talk about,
she could go listen to it and get the flavor. Hi, Lucy. Thanks for listening.
We sent them the numbers. We showed them like, look, every month we keep doing better than the last month. Like it's super cool. And it's catching on. Like we have something that's working. Like people are responding to it. And the more people we get to it, the more they're going to respond to it. And when we can, there was, technical stuff. Like we want to be able to do it from their website. And that was just some, tech things that we had to look into, took care of, made it happen. And but the work was there. Yeah. The work was there.
We didn't wait if you consider this like a label signing, right? We didn't wait till then to start taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And this is more like you could say like a Granger Smith kind of thing. We've talked about him a lot in the podcast. What did he do? He did more of a joint venture, Wheelhouse Records and Broken Bow. Wheelhouse is Granger Smith's label, like an imprint kind of thing. Yep. And we are partnering.
And why is that? Because he was making $1.8 million a year by himself with his team of a total of 4 people, including him. Being an artist.
Yeah.
Touring, putting out CDs.
Brought that value.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're into what we're into and you're doing it well. Why don't you get together? He's like, well, what's in it for me?
That's right. And they said no a lot. The latest story that just happened is brilliant. I love this story. It's Cody Johnson. If you haven't. Texas guy. Yeah. Look at him. Sold out the Houston Rodeo Arena, whatever that's called.
The Astrodome?
No, it's not the Astrodome. It's Alliant or Alliant.
I'm old school. Yeah.
It's
a big freaking place.
75,000 people sold it out as an indie artist.
Indie. Without a big label.
Now, here's the thing.
He did it him own self.
He did it his damn self. Yes. And you know what? Like for years, they've been getting label offers, right? And what do you think the first deal was they got?
Not nearly as good as the one he just signed.
Crappy. Yeah. No. And he talks like go to Music Business Worldwide it's Music Row. I think this article is in.
Yeah, I think this one's on Music Row magazine.
And read about it. And he's talking about, they're like, Cody always wears the cowboy hat. Cody's like all Texas, man.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't bro country. This is like red dirt, like killer. It's about being a country boy, and
it's his
all
thing,
that.
Yeah.
This isn't about pretty pink toes on the dashboard.
Right.
That's not who he is. So he's wearing a cowboy hat. That's because he wears cowboy hats. Right.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't like a get up. Like I think he might sleep in a cowboy hat or something like that. But he wears one, and labels are telling him, man, you got to get rid of the cowboy hat. He's like, why? He's like, well, it's not selling anymore. He's like, no, next. Yeah, I'm selling. And then he goes and sells that dang a wine down in Houston by himself. And then he ends up bypassing all the corporate infrastructure, the A&R guys, the lawyers, everything like that. And you know where he makes the deal? Over cocktails, over margaritas with Esposito.
And who's the head of Warner Brothers Nashville?
Yeah. And I'll bet you that I wasn't there, but I'll bet you the conversation was like, Cody, look, we want to be your label. What's it going to take?
Yeah.
We're here. What's it? It's just you and me. What's it going to take? This is what I want. 50-50 split, got his own imprint. I'm keeping the cowboy hat. Like,
he's still in the cowboy hat. Right.
And Esposito was like, all right, man, whatever you want. Because he came in with leverage.
Yeah. And at the end of it, they both say thank you.
Yep.
Otherwise, they wouldn't do the deal.
And they're happy. And I hope that he goes to the next level from that. But I love that story. Good job, Cody Johnson. And good job, John Esposito, for really, taking the bull by the horns on that one and just making it happen. Like, I love that. I love that. Same
principles, that we're doing here, and same principles that we want you to utilize in your music.
This is what Noah Guthrie did. This is what Carmen did. This is what, there's countless artists that have turned just hard work into
opportunity.
We've got Daredevil artists that are in Bar Frog artists that are doing that right now. Mark Bray. He's got a wife, a brand new baby, supportive parents, but nobody's supporting him financially. And just from him working his butt off, he gets investors. He gets people who want to give him money. He's out there working. The Lonely Highway Boys, they're up here doing everything they can. They're doing it on the sweat of their backs, like the money they're making from playing out every weekend. And they've been doing it for 7 years. Why? Because they ain't gonna do anything else.
All right.
There is no plan B.
All right.
It's either this or they're going to go live off the land and shoot stuff in the woods and
eat their dinner. You're right.
But anyway, man, I'm glad that we got to share that. And we hit all the bullet points, right?
I think so. The last thing was, we have the right product for what they're looking for.
That's right.
You can't overlook that. We could do all this stuff. We can be consistent, discoverable, build relationships, be professional, and have a crap podcast. And the disc makers would like, no.
Or understanding the audience, like the right product for the right audience.
Or it's a automotive podcast and a great one about how to rebuild your carburetor. And disc makers would be like, that's awesome, but it's not for us.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Andre's like a car enthusiast and he loves to tear apart Camaros and put them back together.
Yeah, and he might be, I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
I'll subscribe.
But I'm not going to help you. Yeah.
But I'm not going to put it on our website because it doesn't fit our brand. That's the other thing you have to realize too. We didn't go knocking on doors of whatever, we're not trying to partner with a vegan Save the Animals podcast because we're about music.
That's right.
It's a synergy with the brands. The brands make sense. And the messages and who we're trying to help and how we're trying to help them. That's compatible.
That's right.
And so it's the right product.
For the right
quality,
and the audiences are the
and
same.
It's the right one.
Yeah. That's right. And I think a lot of artists get skewed on that. And my next episode coming up, which will be 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But if you're putting stuff out there and you're not getting the attention that you want, it's either because you're playing to the wrong audience, or in most artists' situation, no audience. Like, I got 5 followers on Instagram and nobody knows me.
Right.
Or you're not making good enough stuff. You need to improve. Like
either the wrong stuff or it's hitting the wrong ears.
It's that. And I heard that on Seth Godin this morning. I told you went down that rabbit hole while we were off the air. And do you know the Joshua Bell story, the violinist?
No, I don't guess.
So this guy, like, Google him, Joshua Bell. Like he's like this amazing, like, savant violinist. Like he's crazy good. And he went down into the subway. This guy can sell out like Carnegie Hall, right?
Oh,
like
I've heard
$200 a ticket. Like he's insanely good, insanely well known. And he went down into the subway and with a ball cap on and played violin for a couple hours. And guess what? Nobody cared.
He just walked on by.
Yeah, it's like he was begging for money or something. It's like, dude, that guy's a genius. And they don't know. Wrong audience.
Wrong audience. Was he any worse just because he was in the subway with a ball cap on? No.
Wasn't getting the love.
His skills at the door.
Yeah. And how many times have we talked about that on one of my episodes, or Lexi and I talk about that, finding that right audience on Expand Your Brand. Like this is have the right product for the right audience.
Exactly.
Period. It's
same person.
You got to think on these levels. You got to be this intentional.
Exactly. Exactly.
This doesn't happen by accident.
No,
the Beatles didn't happen by accident. The Stones didn't happen by accident. You know, none of your favorite bands happened by freaking accident. And none of your favorite songwriters happened by, they didn't just wake up one morning in a deep sleep and write down a hit song, and then it blew out the window in a storm and floated into John Osher's freaking room or something. And he's like, oh my God, let's sign him. Go knock on the door. You know, he just happened to have his address on there. And John just came through the storm, knocking on the door like, you're the man. We want to sign you. No, it doesn't happen by accident.
That's right. So we hope this has been helpful for you guys. Keep on climbing, man. That's the thing. Keep on climbing, and good things are going to happen. If you're intentional about it, you're consistent, you're discoverable, you build relationships, you bring value, be professional. If you have the right product in front of the right ears, good stuff is going to happen.
That's right. You're going to move the needle and put your energy where it's supposed to be put, man. If your solution to nobody heard my last record is to make a new record, then and you do the same thing, I promise you nobody's going to hear that record too. If, you know, you're not doing any marketing, you're not putting it out there, nobody's aware of it, right? We spend a lot of time doing the market. Get it out there. Get it out to spend 90% of your time pushing the music. 90%, and you'll move the needle. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's so repeatable. We do it with every one of our artists. Repeatable. Sure as death and taxes. All right. That brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode, guys. Join the Climb community. Subscribe to the podcast and make sure those episodes come in. Tell a friend about it. If it's working for you, it's going to work for them. And turn them on to it. It's free. I mean, it's going to make you cool, you know, and then take 30 seconds and leave a rating and review. That's the best compliment you could give us. And it makes us look legit to everybody else. So this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.